This is 5 Live Sport with Mark Chapman
on 5 Live. Listen on BBC Sounds.
Evening, so are we set for another memorable Champions League night at St James's Park?
And after 20 years, the Champions League is officially back at St James's Park.
There's been so many special nights here. I think it's going to be a very special occasion.
It's been a good few days for us. I think we're really looking forward to the game. Can't wait to experience really the home atmosphere and what our fans create. I think it's going to be a really memorable night.
For Newcastle United, the Champions League, the theme is back, the competition is back on Tyneside. It comes out! And it's driven into the net by Almiron! St James's Park goes wild! It's a second goal! Dan Burn makes it 2-0!
It is a night to remember. 3-0, you've got to say that it's got to be game over.
Oh, it's in! What a shot! He rifled it into the top corner! And there is the full-time whistle. And St James's Park celebrates. And this is a night, this is a win that will go down in Newcastle United folklore.
To score 4 goals, it wasn't necessarily something that we expected to do, but I'm just delighted that we were able to do that in front of our supporters, and I think it's a really special night.
What a night for Newcastle! What a night for the return of the Champions League to St James's Park!
Well, it's a busy night in the Champions League. We've got Newcastle in action, and that is our commentary, but Celtic and Manchester City are both in action as well. We've got plenty of games in the Championship domestically too, so maybe the best way to consume us this evening, listen to our commentary alongside the final score graphics and the video printer. You can hit the red button, go to the iPlayer or the BBC Sport app and just click on 5 Live Final Score, and then you'll get all the graphics in the video printer along with our commentary from St James's Park. Let's go to our team there. One of them has spent the last 20 minutes or so being mobbed for selfies. The other one is sat with his hood up eating wine gums. You could guess which one is which. The team news, Alan Shearer alongside Ian Dennis.
Yeah, I can't have a photo now, I'm just busy. Sorry,
Do you know
Mark,
what,
yes.
Alan? Do you know what, Alan? We should be very lucky and very relieved that he is here with us this evening, because he spent Sunday doing the Cube, and they had visions of him being stuck inside the Cube, not being able to get out, still trying to solve some of the tasks.
Kept that one quiet, didn't he?
Yeah, that's funny you should say that, because the last time I saw him in the centre of Manchester, his electric scooter broke down and he had to pedal it himself. So you were the one floundering in Manchester, not me.
Always use green energy, Ian, always use green energy.
Oh,
Anyhow,
for sustainability, you know that.
back. Go on, team news.
The team news. 2 changes for Newcastle from Crystal Palace. Isak for Wilson, Almiron for Murphy. So Pope is in goal. A back 4 of Trippier, Shearer, Lascelles and Byrne. Longstaff, Guimaraes, Joelinton, Almiron, Isak and Anthony Gordon. From their last Champions League game, Dortmund have made 3 changes from that goalless draw against Milan. Wolf for Rierson as a full-back at right-back. Metscher for Brandt in the midfield. And Sabitzer instead of Özcan. So Kobel is in goal. Wolf, Hummels, Schlotterbeck and Bensebaini is the defence. Metscher, Chan, Sabitzer in the midfield, and a front 3 of Royce, Daniel Marlin and Füllkrug.
They are losing Champions League experience, obviously.
I'll turn the microphone on, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, you could say that. The problem is Newcastle look really strong in the midfield, don't they? I'm not sure he would be first pick all the time. I was at Newcastle for the first game of the season against Aston Villa, and he was off the scale brilliant, Tonali.
They've got Joe Willock on the bench as well, Pat, so that makes it even stronger as well. He's been out for a while. I wouldn't say they've missed his energy, but that's the one thing that he could give if they were to bring him on as well.
He was bought partly for Champions League experience though, Alan, wasn't he? But at the same time, you can completely understand Eddie Howe going into protection mode around him. Until we know, those kind of things are still going to be up in the air, one would guess.
Yeah, I listened to James Horncastle on 5 Live last week.
Let's turn our attentions back to tonight. 4 points from 2 matches. Newcastle top Group F. A win tonight would put them within touching distance of qualifying for the last 16. Eddie Howe, though, says they can't get ahead of themselves despite their unbeaten start.
You go from AC Milan to PSG to Dortmund.
Alan, are you more impressed by what they've done in the Champions League already, or by the fact that they are very much within that running towards the top of the table, in that they are 6th with 16 points? Manchester City take on the 16-time Swiss champions Young Boys at 8 o'clock, looking to make it 3 wins from 3 in their defence of the Champions League crown. And Pep Guardiola says he's more focused on their performances than maintaining that perfect start.
We won last season, but the previous season we were in the same level than last season, and we didn't win it, and last season we won it. So it's football, hopefully.
So that was Pep Guardiola. Conor McNamara is across this one for us and has the team news.
Yes, Manchester City looking for their 3rd straight win in the group. Jack Grealish, as we know, has had to be very patient for game time in the Premier League over the past 2 months. He hasn't started in the top flight since August, but Grealish does start in Bern this evening. He and Jeremy Doku will play either side of Erling Haaland. Overall, it's 6 changes from the Manchester City team that started against Brighton at the weekend. So City line up with Edison in goal, Lewis, Akanji, Diaz and Aki at the back, Rodri, Kovacic and Mateus Nunes in midfield, and then Grealish, Doku and Haaland in attack. The Young Boys have had 1 defeat in their domestic league so far this season, but of course it's a big step up in class tonight against the European champions, and Cedric Ayton comes back into the starting team this evening to lead the Young Boys attack. He's got 3 goals in his last 5 games.
Let's come on to Celtic. Then the other game in their group has got 10 minutes to go. Feyenoord lead Lazio by 3 goals to 0. Celtic bottom of this group, 2 defeats out of 2 so far. They welcome Atletico Madrid to Celtic this evening. Brendan Rodgers knows they need to be at their best.
One of the biggest things at this level is concentration. You drop your guard for a second and you can get punished.
Gavin Wallace at this one for us. Gavin.
Good evening, chappers. It started to build here, quite a mild night in the East End of Glasgow. The initial team news for Celtic tonight is Brendan Rodgers keeps the same team that started and won away at Hearts at the weekend. And, well, for Atletico Madrid, I really don't know where to start there, to be honest. You've got Morata, Griezmann, Axel Wiesel. It's just a who's who of who is excellent at football at the moment. And what makes it worse, it really is, and what makes it worse is Celtic really have to win this game tonight, Mark. They're languishing at the bottom of the group. They're 4 points behind everyone else, or above them. So tonight, if they want any sort of chance of progressing anywhere close to that last 16, or even if they want to try and finish 3rd in the group, and then continue playing football after Christmas in Europe, they have to get something tonight. This is probably the proverbial must-win tonight at Celtic Park.
Switch our attention to rugby union for the next few minutes. 2 significant retirement announcements today. Ben Youngs, the England scrum half, and Wales Lee Halfpenny both deciding to retire from the international game. Our rugby union correspondent Chris Jones joins us now. Let's start with Ben Youngs. Chris, who is England's most capped men's player.
And what a servant he's been to English rugby, Mark. And it kind of ties into this theme of it being the end of an era for English rugby. I've just checked.
Our featured games in the Championship tonight. Well, the first one sees Ipswich head to Bristol City, looking to keep pace with Leicester at the top of the table. Chris Coles is at this one.
Yes, Ipswich being mentioned, Mark, in the same breath as Leicester proves what a terrific start they've made back in the Championship. 9 wins from 11. And forget all the salient on-field stats that might actually mean something tonight. Ipswich yet to lose a midweek league game under Kieran McKenna. 24 of them, if you're counting, which is quite remarkable. Inconsistency continues to plague Bristol City, yet to win back-to-back matches in the Championship, although victory tonight could see them jump into the top 6. 1 change apiece. Jason Knight replaces Hayden Roberts for Bristol City. Ipswich bring in Caden Jackson for Wes Burns.
Always big fans, Chris, of absolutely spurious stats that don't mean anything.
Of course, much better than the real things.
Absolutely. Wayne Rooney takes charge of his first home game at Birmingham. Hull are the visitors to St Andrews, watched tonight by Aaron Paul.
Yeah, and the football romantics have their match up again, Mark, as Rooney's former assistant at Derby County, Liam Rosinia, becomes his first opponent at St Andrews, as his Hull City, winless in their last 4, arrive in the second city, and after a late defeat at Middlesbrough on Saturday, Wayne Rooney welcomes Junior Bakuna, Oliver Burke, Koji Miyoshi into his 11. The last time Hull won back-to-back games here was 1918. Records are made to be broken though, aren't they?
They absolutely are. Right, we can keep you across the other games in the Championship tonight as well. So Plymouth, Sheffield Wednesday, Preston against Southampton, and Rotherham versus Coventry. They're all 7:45 kickoffs. The 8 o'clock tonight is Stoke against Leeds. We can talk more about Borussia Dortmund now. They've been beaten by Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League 2-0. Goalless draw to Milan as well, so they're bottom of the group at the moment. Archie Rhind-Tutt, German football expert, joins us. Having said that, and what they're doing in the Champions League, they're actually unbeaten in the Bundesliga, Archie.
They are, and yet nobody thinks they're playing particularly well. So they brought in Marcel Sabitzer from Bayern, who is deemed surplus to requirements there. He's not quite been fit enough yet. More controversially, they brought in Felix Metscher from Wolfsburg. Not controversial for his on-the-pitch abilities, albeit he's not shown it yet, and has looked like sometimes he's doing a poor impression of Bellingham.
But our commentary, which you can listen to alongside the final score graphics and the video printer on the Red Button, the iPlayer and the BBC Sport website and app, comes from St James's Park. Newcastle against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League with Alan Shearer and, first of all, Ian Dennis.
Thank you, Mark. It's another tumultuous night on Tyneside, and certainly War Flags have been at their absolute best in creating the sights. You can hear the sounds for yourself, but there's a mosaic which has been formed by black and white flags in the Lees's end away towards our left-hand side that says, "Away the lads." You've then got the initials of Newcastle United Football Club in the east stand, and then in the Gallowgate end, black and white stripes, and right at the heart of that Gallowgate end is the Newcastle Blue Star. And still, that BMX has not been sold. As that banner that has been seen on Match of the Day for about the last 2 years is also getting another outing, and it's still available for 42 quid. But Alan, it's another terrific atmosphere here at St James's.
Oh, it's fantastic. You know, you appreciate it when you're a player and you walk out to this, because this just doesn't happen overnight. War Flags do this, and it's a conscious effort to make the players feel important. So when they're walking out to this, they want to repay them, and they want to start the match really, really well, and that's why they've done that in the last the last 18 months.
And you were telling me before, when we did a little turn for the 5 Live Sports social on the social platforms, that you were saying that has an impact, because when you were a player, the noise either came from the Gallowgate end or the Lees's end.
Yeah, absolutely, and now it's all around St James's Park, right the way around. I mean, there's not one seat that hasn't got a flag on. So as I said, you can imagine when the work starts to put into that. Then everyone's got to play their part, and they've done that tonight. They've done it for the last 18 months, and that's why the players are responding to that.
Certainly are. Newcastle United's team are just posing for the team photo in their black and white striped shirts and black shorts. Eddie Howe has made 2 changes from the team that dismantled Crystal Palace here at the weekend. Isak for Wilson in attack. Almiron replaces Murphy, who had such a fine game. So Pope is in goal. It's a back four of Trippier, Shearer, Lascelles and Byrne. Longstaff, Guimaraes and Joelinton the midfield 3. Almiron, Isak and Gordon. Significantly, Joe Willock is amongst the substitutes after missing 5 months with a hamstring injury. Borussia Dortmund, who are all in yellow, have made 3 changes from their last outing in the Group F of the Champions League. Wolf for Rierson at right back, Metscher for Brandt, who they will miss. He's got a calf injury. He's had a good season so far for Dortmund in this campaign. And Sabitzer comes in for Özcan. Kerbel then is in goal. Wolf, Hummel, Schlotterbeck and Bensebaini is the defence. Metscher, Chan, Sabitzer, Royce, Malen and Fulkrug, who will lead the attack. So there are some familiar names in that Borussia Dortmund side. However, whilst they're yet to score in the Champions League, they've won their last 5 in the Bundesliga. So you'd imagine that they've come here full of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Although they haven't had a great start, they know that if they lose this game tonight, then they're up against it. On the other hand, Newcastle win it, then they'd have to be favourites to go and win this group, which when you realise when the draw was made, that would have been a huge task.
Well, it certainly would have been. I mean, this is a group of real pedigree. As we're underway, our referee is Arthur Diaz from Portugal, with the persistent light rain that has been falling now for a number of hours here in the northeast of England. News of that from Conor during the break, as here is Wolf, and that'll be coming up not just yet, because it's a free kick to Dortmund, and they're complaining to the Portuguese referee. No, it is blown the half-time whistle.
That's why they're complaining, because they were on the break and they outnumbered Newcastle again.
But half-time, it's Newcastle 0, Borussia Dortmund 1. The goal from Mecha on the stroke of half-time. Would you say that Dortmund are worth their lead, Alan Shearer?
Yeah, I don't think you can say anything but that, because of the chances that they've created. Newcastle have been fortunate that it's just one and have had to rely on some really good goalkeeping from Nick Pope. You can say that at the other end also. Newcastle had 2 chances, but on chances created, Dortmund deserved to be in front.
So work to do for Newcastle in the second half. Half-time at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Borussia Dortmund 1.
Now we'll talk about the Tyson Fury fight with Steve Bunce during half-time. First, as we approach 9 o'clock, 3 minutes to 9, here's Stuart Clarkson.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's still planning to order a ground offensive in Gaza, but only while their 3-month-old baby was in the back of the car.
BBC 5 Live.
Hello and welcome to Cammy and Ben's Proper Football Podcast.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sport with Mark Chapman.
On 5 Live. Listen on BBC Sounds.
Borussia Dortmund are a goal up at Newcastle this evening in the Champions League. Celtic lead Atletico Madrid by 2-1, and it's Young Boys 0, Manchester City 0. We'll be back to St James's Park shortly. 2 significant retirements in rugby union. The England scrum half Ben Youngs and the Welshman Lee Halfpenny have both announced their retirements today. And we're going to talk boxing next. The fight week build-up is underway in Saudi Arabia for the fight between Tyson Fury and former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. They've both been at the media workout today. 5 Live's boxing Steve Bunce is there for us. How much of a buzz is there around this fight?
Well, there's a decent buzz here, chappers, in Riyadh, as you can imagine, because they can stick posters and neon-lit signs and light the sky up with fighters, do all sorts of stuff comfortably. Every single building seems to have something draped on it. But they must be anticipating something, because I'm looking at 2,500 seats in this arena, and I'm just about to get a grand tour of the main arena, where there are 20,000 seats. Every seat, so we're told, is sold. An awful lot of people, and there's a big buzz about it. It's a big event. Don't you start talking to me about fights. It's a big event.
Well, that was going to be my next question. What is it?
Well, it's officially a fight. Let's get that right. So the British Boxing Board of Control, yes, it is. The British Boxing Board of Control will be here. It's 10 3-minute rounds.
Thank you, Steve. I've got you on my screen. You're looking very good. You seem to be sort of channeling a bit Stanley Tucci as a sort of, as if you're abroad and doing a little tour of somewhere.
Listen, if only I was off to eat pasta in Italy right now, chappers, I'd take you as my wingman any day of the week, my friend. Adios, amigo.
See you soon. You can download the 5 Live Boxing Podcast for all the build-up to the fight this week. A new episode every day. Bunsey back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock in 5 Live Sport. Pat Nevin with us and will be from 10 o'clock as well. I know you've been watching Celtic. Back to St James's and Alan and Ian.
Thank you, Mark. Perfect timing. Back underway. Neither side has made an alteration at the break. Run through the 2 teams for you. So Newcastle United now in this second half in their black and white striped shirts and black shorts are playing from left to right. Full time at Ashton Gate, Chris Coles.
10 wins from 12 in the Championship for Ipswich. 1-0 winners at Bristol City. Nathan Broadhead in the first half. Much more competitive in the second. Bristol City will feel they deserved an equaliser. It didn't come. And Ipswich's excellent season continues. Bristol City 0, Ipswich 1.
Full time at St Andrews, Aaron Paul.
Night for Wayne Rooney, beaten by his former assistant Liam Rosini. Hull were excellent value. Their goals came through Delap and Philogene, but it's 2 defeats from his opening 2 games for Wayne Rooney at Birmingham. Birmingham 0, Hull 2.
Left-footed, skies it into the Gallowgate end, and there is the final whistle. And Borussia Dortmund have blown the group wide open. They've beaten Newcastle United by 1-0. And now Newcastle United are going to have to go to Germany and get something. Full time, Newcastle United 0, Borussia Dortmund 1. 1. Alan Shearer.
Yeah, you can't say it was a fluke. They might have got lucky once or twice in the last 10 minutes there when it deflected onto the bar. But in terms of general defending, I think Dortmund have done it really well. They've played Newcastle really well, played the crowd well, took the pace out of the game in the early minutes, which is what, of course, PSG didn't do. But then after that, they were a threat on the break, not so much in the second half, but they had to defend, and they defended really well. And if Newcastle are honest, I think, in looking at most of the game, I'm not sure they deserved anything out of the game.
There was an early frantic start, then there was a flurry of activity late on where they hit the crossbar twice. It was a Callum Wilson header that came back off the crossbar, and then that deflected effort from Gordon. But Borussia Dortmund held firm, and it's finished here at St James's Park. Newcastle 0, Borussia Dortmund 1.
Another win for Manchester City in the Champions League. Conor McNamara.
Yes, Young Boys 1, Manchester City 3. Akanji opened the scoring just after half-time back on Swiss soil. Haaland was to get the other 2 for City. The first from the penalty spot, the second a shuffle and a finish into the top corner. And those have been Haaland's first goals in 6 Champions League games, stretching back to last season. He was due one. Overall, it's now 37 goals in 33 Champions League games for Haaland in his career. Beyond amazing. Pep Guardiola took the Norwegian off before the end, protected ahead of Sunday's Manchester derby. And it was interesting, Mark, you could see Haaland and Mateus Nunes sitting on the bench. They were comparing wounds, the rashes and the burns that they'd got from sliding on the plastic pitch in Bern. City remain comfortably top of Group G. They've beaten Young Boys 3-1.
We've all been there, haven't we, Conor? All been there with
indeed.
The burns from
That's one thing we've matched Haaland on, yeah.
It's the only thing that we can match him on. Thank you very much, Conor. The other game in that group, RB Leipzig 3, Red Star 1. Earlier in Celtic's group, Feyenoord beat Lazio 3-1, and Celtic themselves finished all square with Atletico Madrid. Gavin Wallace.
Did indeed, Mark. Celtic 2, Atletico Madrid 2. One of the most frantic first halves I think I've probably ever witnessed, that had everything apart from the kitchen sink and clearly the rain in Newcastle as well. It was an early start on 4. Matt O'Reilly slipped in Kyogo, and the Japanese frontman, all he had to do was lift it over Oblak to score. Anton Griezmann scored on 25 after his penalty was saved by Joe Hart. The former Man City goalkeeper got down really smartly to his left, but of course the Frenchman was still stood there waiting for the rebound as well. Lewis Palmer's goal on 29, Marco, we've spoken about for a very long time to come. It was a Diaz had made a low cross in towards the back post, and the outside of Palmer's right foot let loose a rasper that rattled off the far post. And of course Alvaro Morata, he said this week in the papers he wanted in on the act. He did, with a diving header at the back post. It was also simple on 53 minutes. Celtic would be really disappointed in the manner they concede, and then Rodrigo de Paul, with about 10 minutes to go, was sent off for a second bookable offence as well. Celtic though, Mark, with a much needed point, and perhaps can maybe just keep things alive for them in this group, at least as they challenge now for third. Celtic 2, Atletico Madrid 2.
Reaction and opinion on all the night's Champions League action to come here on 5 Live. Colin is here at 10:30. First, here's Stuart Clarkson and the news.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reiterated that he's planning for a ground offensive in Gaza. Reports found the majority of trees in the dark hedges in County Antrim are in a poor state, with 1 dead.
Match of the day.
Top 10 podcast. The Match of the Day.
Listen only on BBC Sounds. This is 5 Live Sport with Mark Chapman.
On 5 Live. Listen on BBC Sounds.
So as far as the British sides were concerned in the Champions League this evening, another win for Manchester City. They beat Young Boys away 3-1. Celtic and Atletico Madrid finished level at 2-2. And at St James's Park, it ended Newcastle 0. Borussia Dortmund 1. Thoughts of Alan Shearer and Pat Nevin to come. First of all, Ian Dennis with the story of the game.
A job well done by Borussia Dortmund to ensure.
Yeah, there are so many positives, aren't there, Pat? From a, I know we will talk about Newcastle, but just from a Borussia Dortmund point of view, with how they managed the differences in the two halves.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we talked earlier on, didn't we, about having been in this competition a lot and learning how to do it.
I mean, even at the end, Ian, they hit the bar as well, didn't they, Newcastle?
Yeah, they did. It was Gordon's deflected effort. Wilson had a header as well that had hit the crossbar. So they had the 2 chances, late pressure, but Dortmund by that time had gone to the 3 at the back, and I thought that their defence never really looked like conceding.
You did that on purpose there, Chappers, didn't you? I can see you know that. You knew that he's got his coat pulled up to his eyes because he's freezing, he's soaking wet, and you deliberately asked him a question.
No, Alan, I wouldn't do it. I'm just trying to include everybody, as if I would do that.
I could see you giggling when you asked the question.
To be fair, everybody was. I mean, Pat was, Archie was, everybody was giggling. So that was one change that went very early on.
Yeah, that just popped into my head when Alan was talking there, because he was holding the ball up well. He plays that kind of slight more half position. He drops off a little bit. He asks different types of questions.
Did Dortmund surprise you tonight, Archie? Archie Rhind-Tutt is with us, German football expert.
Surprise me? I'm stunned. I have no idea what happened.
Well, I was going to say, because you weren't effusive in your praise of them pre-match.
No, and I stand by that.
That's it. Plenty more reaction throughout the evening and on the Football Daily pod. Here's Colin.
Yeah, can you hear me, mate?
Yes, I can.